just jump in and just introduce yourself, and then I'll go after you go.
Sure, yeah. I'm Genesis Nicolaisen. I use they, them, or she, her pronouns, and I'm in the executive director role at a small nonprofit called SeekHealing here in Western North Carolina. I'm based in Asheville. The short intro to SeekHealing is we're a social health and wellness organization. So that means we're addressing the loneliness epidemic and playing a part in the bigger picture of mental health services by really focusing on what people need to build healthy, deep, meaningful relationships and friendships with each other, because we understand what a huge impact that has on our mental and physical wellness.
Yay. I love that because it's like a diagram that we overlap in a lot of space. So, my name is Krystal, Dr. Krystal White, and I'm the Chief Boss Officer at Free Leadership. We have a tagline that says, "You don't have to be the boss to be a leader." And I just happen to be the boss. And one of our real main missions is to generate social capital. It's very much like social health. And we believe that the generators of that, first and foremost, are people in our personal lives that are the true leaders. And they are the hidden support structure of everything that we become to be and everything that we think and feel and act. We have inherited, or we have learned from other people, or we've been inspired by other people. And so we're attempting to rebrand leadership out of its traditional definition of status and professionalism and into one that's in the fabric of civic engagement in our roles. So that's what we do. And we are here today to talk about both of our campaigns. First and foremost, let's kind of educate ourselves and one another about the disaster response and disaster recovery. So, what do you have for us?
Yeah, well, just in a nutshell, I think it's important to understand that there are phases to a natural disaster, like what has happened here in Western North Carolina, what happened in Florida not so long ago as well. But if we think about here in the Appalachian Mountains where Hurricane Helene hit, there's a couple important milestones to keep in mind with how the response and recovery process unfolds. There's the moment of impact. So here that was September 27th, 2024. Then after that, there's a time of what we're going to call response,
Right.
followed by a time of recovery. And so, in us talking about our campaigns today, we're going to be talking about like what are our organizations doing in terms of response and recovery. And just one other piece I want to overlay across that is more sociologically speaking, what happens in human cultures after a climate disaster like this, any kind of, big natural disaster that has so much impact, which is just this arc that's been documented many times now that after impact, there is often a phase of like pretty intense, incredible social cohesion that comes out of the area that's most deeply impacted that lasts for X amount of time, but is pretty classically followed by a sharp downward trend into what's called disillusionment, before we ease back up to find some sort of balance between those two pendulum swings. So I think that's also a useful frame for us as we're talking about response and recovery. How are we weaving in social cohesion, the thing that you and I are both out here carrying torches for, like that being the very thing that is going to support the recovery process itself.
Right. So we all experienced this, right? Many people, I'm sure almost all of us have had somebody have something disastrous or grief hit them personally, or somebody that they know, or some big thing happens and the immediate response is pretty strong. Like people are understanding, people support you, people ask, how can I help? People are bonded together emotionally, and then it just completely dips away. And that's
Even though you might still be really needing support.
right, right, right. And from my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, but what I've been told by the experts in the area is that Asheville is in response still, and it will be in disaster response through the end of 2024.
Yeah,
Meaning,
through the end of December. That's right.
right, meaning we still are reliant on significant other support besides our community to have our basic needs and our normal functioning be met.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. I mean, there are still people missing in this region. We're still piecing back together devastation that is going to, there's a truth that the cleanup will take years, and there's still acute, immediate response happening, both structurally in terms of, the buildings and homes that washed away, as well as just daily life wise. And, we were
Daily
talking about
life.
the internet earlier, but there's also water potability. I don't have clean water
Right.
at the place where I live, not just for drinking, but it's also questionably you're not supposed to wash dishes with it or shower in it, which just like very fundamentally interrupts the rhythm of daily life in a way that you can't underestimate, especially when we're thinking about mental health. And then zooming out and asking the question of like, what does this do? What does this kind of interrupt and pattern interrupt and lack of routine stability do at a population level? It's having a huge impact on our collective wellness. So
Right.
that part of response, I would say, is also active until utility systems are at more of a baseline level. We're not really into that recovery period yet.
For sure. So we're recording this on November 4th, and I just had my house be kind of cleared for me to be able to live in it in Asheville. And it was like almost a day-to-day thing working with other people to like make sure that that was the case, and it still is like a not non-potable water, right? So it's like a program that's now in the background that is loud. And when we hit the recovery phase, it will be not as loud, but still as powerful. And that's really important for us to kind of think out there. It's a good metaphor of like, when you hear the crackling and then it kind of goes away, but we might not be able to hear it or we might not be able to see it or touch it, but it's still a very, very potent and powerful frequency or energy or program
Mm-hmm.
thing in the background. And that can mediate the recovery efforts. So
Yeah.
what do you think for like SeekHealing? What are you really feeling like you can step into to prepare for that recovery that we're still at 2 months, 2.5 months away from it? So
Mm.
what are you guys doing to prepare now?
Yeah. Well, we're certainly orienting to it in that from that framework of what is response right now, excuse me, and then how are we setting up the
Yeah.
recovery in a way that I know that you and I are really aligned on in terms of like running these social wellness programs and these social capital programs. So at Seek, we are our response phase efforts. We're really focused on just meeting people wherever they are at for in the moment emotional first aid, mental health first aid, providing non-clinical trauma support from this social wellness standpoint, from the understanding and reality that neighbors can be empowered to listen deeply to each other, to hold empathy for each other in a way that really co-regulates nervous systems, meets active psychological need as it's happening to prevent the development of longer term psychological crisis, mental health symptoms. So, what I mean by that is like if you've just experienced a huge trauma, the way that you attend to it psychologically and the way that you would attend to a physical wound instead of antibiotics and band-aids, you use empathy and listening. And so we mobilized a lot of efforts to make that possible to the wider community here in Asheville, Buncombe County, and Haywood County, with some outreach efforts into more rural areas as well, providing those kinds of facilitated listening experiences, peer-led, peer-driven. So that's been our response. And recovery wise, I mean, really the mission of our work, I'm just going to use a capital O, our Krystal here, being to improve that social capital across our community here in Western North Carolina, is because that is what is needed, right? As the recovery process means not necessarily reestablishing pre-Helene normal. It means recovering and rebuilding communities that are resilient to crises like this, that are where more local interdependence is possible. I mean, I'm so proud to be a part of this community and to see that the National Guard, for example, left ahead of
Yeah.
timeline because of the amount of community support that came online in this immediate response phase that we've been in. I'm so proud of Asheville and of Western North Carolina for how much interdependence and social capital we already have here. And for me, the longer term recovery process that we're preparing for that will start later this winter is improving on pre-Helene baselines for that interdependence, right? Like
Yeah.
actually empowering a network of leaders in our community, of peer leaders, of neighbor leaders, of citizen leaders who can empower smaller networks of mutual support to be happening all the time, whether we're impacted by a hurricane or not. So the programming that Seek offers to support that is deeper education around, training people to listen to each other that way, training leaders to step up into those roles, and then systems that support mutual aid happening. Like, oh, we know this person needs that, and this person can offer that. How do we connect those people in real time?
So it's almost like you're doubling down on the good stuff that you're already doing, right?
Yeah,
Right. Right.
yeah.
I love this.
It just became
Yeah,
more acutely needed in the light of this disaster. Um,
absolutely. It's like
and what
revealing
about,
that.
yeah, what was already like through this lens?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what about for y'all? And how have your programs like both evolved or not evolved, given the mission is already there?
For sure. I think what was really clear is this, we are about leadership and how to become a leader in your personal and professional life is really about, can you meet people in their moment of mental health challenge, or actually mental health like opportunity, to receive social support, which comes in the form of non-judgmental listening, being recognized that you are able to give support and somebody else is ready and able to receive it. And so what we're doing is we really want to give 20 scholarships to a cohort-based program of leaders that are already in Asheville, in the Asheville community. And we want to give them a scholarship to become certified in mental health first aid and listening, and to partner with you guys through some of your curriculum. And then we would follow them, provide their own personal counselor and mental health first aid coach, and sustainment sessions over a 3-month period. So we are ensuring that they are reinforced, basically, their own mental well-being is reinforced as they're actually giving the service to other people. So in these next couple of months, we have a campaign to raise the funds to make this project viable in early 2025 when recovery actually starts. We want to hold off on training people right now while they are so inundated in their own recovery or our own response systems, and myself included. I mean, I just told you I'm still somewhat displaced. So, we have to honor our own disaster response as teams, as individuals in our partnerships. And so right now, what we're doing is just preparing to be in a good position to implement when the conditions are right, meaning the funds are there and the people are ready to learn and ready to kind of recover.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's one of the things that's so beautiful about us collaborating in this campaign is that when you all out there hear this and choose to partner with us in this way or contribute your funds towards this campaign, what you're really doing is both supporting response that SeekHealing is running on the ground right now in Western North Carolina. Like the direct translation is you're paying some of those community superhero facilitators to get out there and hold space, and you're contributing to the recovery effort of continuing to train and empower those leaders as they're going to step up and build a stronger fabric of community support and cohesion through 2025.
Yeah, perfect. Well, next time, let's talk about this idea of collaboration and what that's all about. So, but I think we covered a lot of
Perfect.
ground.
Yeah, it's great. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Yep. Next time. Bye.